PvP stats are explained very poorly in Diablo Immortal. In fact, if you look at things like armor penetration, potency, for instance, it'll tell you that when playing against players, I can gain up to a 50% increased control duration, but that's at a maximum, and it doesn't tell you that we need to be within 500 additional potency over the top of the resistance. For instance, if you look at things like movement speed, and you see increases your movement speed by 10%, they don't tell you the cap of this is 70%, and that the negation effect for this in PvP is minus 50%, so you can only be slowed by half. There's breakdowns that people have to actually go and test in the game themselves in order to figure this out. For instance, the new 20% damage of the accursed towers had to be tested in the game to see if it's even affected by the cycle of strife, which it appears like it's not affected by that damage reduction. In fact, if you look in the game right here, you can see damage increased by 32%, and it says this bonus increases the damage dealt to players as part of the cycle of strife, but it doesn't say anything about whether or not it's affected by the 66% damage negation that you see in things like your legendary gem effects. So because of this, there is some controversy in terms of how the stats actually work, and very often they have to be tested by players to actually figure this out because the in-game mechanics themselves are often poorly explained. But there is one more fairly poorly explained mechanic that affects how much damage your character actually receives before you even make that character. For instance, in the game, not all the classes are created equal when it comes to how much damage you receive in PvP. This is something that has been figured out over time as the game has gone on. You see, in Diablo games, they very often have a counterbalance mechanic where the people that are melee-based receive less damage. In Diablo Immortal is actually no different. In the game, if you are a barbarian, a monk, or a crusader, in PvP, you receive 40% damage reduction negation. This is something that these classes get across the board just for the fact that they're basically melee. Well, when you have a class like Monk, for instance, that does the most damage in burst, or you have a class like Barbarian that is arguably, other than Conjuration of Light, like the most survivable, these 40% damage reductions can be fairly noticeable. This is also part of the reason classes like Wizard feel like they're going to be deleted instantly, or Demon Hunter feel like you're going to be deleted instantly. You are taking full damage versus these other classes. And if you have somebody like a Monk that can get directly on top of you, they're just receiving 40% damage reduction while they have a shield, while you're shooting with your full damage received on your Demon Hunter. Now, this is obviously done to balance out the fact that you are a ranged creature and can attack from range, and you're supposed to be able to use that advantage naturally. But I wouldn't blame you for not knowing this, because if you look at the battleground overview, etc., and when you're building your classes, it doesn't explain this literally anywhere in the game. However, in order to increase your cycle of strife badges, if this is something you care about, you're going to notice very often you have to actually do a significant amount of PvP. If you look at this down here, for instance, improve your prestige in battleground rank is one of the requirements in order to actually do this. So PvP is going to be a requirement for these badges, which snowball and give you additional stats in PvP. And obviously, as they add more and more PvP into the game with the new competing clans type of environment, this types of information, like the 40% damage reduction, for instance, in my opinion, should be blatantly stated somewhere. So my argument is today, Blizzard, if we could get some more transparency in terms of PvP, maybe the battleground guy actually breaks down the caps, how much movement speed negation there is, how much potency or resistance you need over another person in order to get the max cap. Explain the fact that the 40% itself is in the melee classes. Maybe show the 66% reduction that we see in the cycle of strife and show what your stats were to what they are when you go into PvP. Any of this level of transparency would help PvP and help people figure out what to do with their builds. But for now, if you're thinking about class changing and you're focused on PvP, now you know that the melee classes do have a damage reduction just by the fact that they are in fact melee. So if you feel like you're hitting, wow, I hit big numbers on that Wizard, on that Demon Hunter, but then suddenly you're just not really hitting that hard on other people, don't worry, it's not just you, it's the way the game is built. Now, what's interesting is these PvP systems are associated around clans, and clans actually have a major issue where you can clan hop instantly. However, Blizzard just put out a notice saying that they're going to be fixing that, and we broke that down in this video located right here.